We're live.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is February 11th, Tuesday, 1 p.m. House Government Operations and Military Affairs is open for committee business. We are picking things up with a walkthrough of H17, an act relating to the approval of the adoption of a charter, of the town of Morrison. That's a lot of tons. And we are just being joined by Legislative Counsel right now. We had some brief testimony on this subject. Good day, sir.
Good afternoon. For the record, Tucker Anderson, Legislative Counsel. You do have in front of you H17 as introduced, which proposes to adopt the charter of the town of Morristown. I'll give you a quick walkthrough of the bill. I will flag a few of the nuanced pieces just so that you have it in your scienter moving forward. And provide you with some historical context around one section of the bill, which we see pretty frequently in charters as passed by the voters, but that the General Assembly since 2017 has made a concerted effort to remove from charter proposals. Section 1 approves the adoption of the charter. This is boilerplate language that you see in every single charter that passes through the General Assembly. It is the express statement of approval. Section 2 contains a redesignation. And if I jump into the Tucker Time portal and go back to the first time that you reviewed this bill, the representative from Milton asked whether this redesignation was to keep things in alphabetical order. That is exactly the case. So we try to reorganize the chapters whenever we're being forced into a position where we're going to have charters out of alphabetical order. Despite just how many of them there are, almost 90 by this point, we've managed to keep them in alphabetical order. There's only one that remains out of alphabetical order because of the adoption of the charter of the town of Waterbury last session. There was one that we missed. We redesignated 12, we missed one.
It's a good weighted average, though. It's still nonetheless.
It's not bad. Okay. Section 3 contains the operative provisions of the charter. The town has proposed 3 sections for their charter. You heard a great overview of those sections from the town, but to go back over them, Section 1 states that the corporate existence of the town is retained despite the fact that there is now this new freshly minted charter for the town being added to statute. We do see this a lot in charters, although it is not legally necessary to have this section in your charter. Section 2. This is a provision that covers legislative interpretation of potential inconsistencies and conflicts between special law, aka the charter, and general municipal law governing same or similar sections. The way that it is written here for the town's purposes, and they did share that they borrowed this from the town of Colchester's charter, this states that except when changed or modified, or by any lawful regulation or ordinance of the town, all of the statutes of the state relating to municipalities shall apply to the town. So they're saying here, all of the general authority that's available to municipalities is still available to the town, despite the fact that they have this special governing chapter in law. This is the section that I was referring to early on in my testimony that is typically removed from new charters, because in 2017, the General Assembly adopted 17 VSA 2631, amended 17 VSA section 2631 to have an express statement of how general law and charter law interact with each other. And the purpose of the amendments in that section was to avoid having inconsistent or different legislative interpretation statutes charter to charter. Not all of these sections are exactly the same, depending on which town or village charter you're looking at. And that presents a problem for reviewing courts because there is a rule of legislative interpretation that every word that the General Assembly uses is intentional, and you do not use superfluous language. Yes, I got there.
That word.
So to ensure that there is consistency in legislative interpretation, that general law was adopted, and it has been the General Assembly's general practice to remove charter-specific language around this whenever it comes before the bodies. Section 3 establishes the town manager system and provides some special authority to the town manager for this town. In subsection A, it states that the manager is the chief executive officer and head of the administration of the town government and is responsible to the select board for the efficient administration of municipal affairs of the town. Not much of a deviation there from essentially just a general statement of what town managers do under current law. Subsection B, the town manager shall have the authority to hire, appoint, discipline, and remove all town employees, subject to the provisions of personnel rules approved by the select board. Further, that the manager may authorize a department head to hire, appoint, discipline, or remove an employee subject to the manager's discretion and supervision. All of the content of this charter, this is the one area that I can point to and say, this is the special law contained within the town's proposal. This is the deviation from general law, where town managers are not given the authority, for example, to appoint and discipline all employees of the town. There was also a question the first time you looked at this about why is this coming up in a charter? Is there general law that allows a municipality to adopt the town manager system of government? Absolutely, and I think that I previously sent a link to the governing chapter for town managers to the committee. You can take a look through it. It allows any municipality in the state to adopt the town manager system with some general duties and authority assigned to the town manager. In this subsection B is a deviation from that. And as the town presented in their overview, this language in its entirety was passed for the town of Waterbury last session. So this is existing authority that the General Assembly has granted to another town.
But only the one town, or does it exist in the universe of charters anywhere else?
That's the only town that I'm aware of that used this exact language.
Representative Huber, sorry.
No problems. So in 3B, where it says subject to the manager's discretion and supervision, that being a special law doesn't circumvent any labor law or anything that's on the book in terms of contractual agreements, etc.
So your question gets into a little bit more complicated area of charter law versus general law interpretation, which is that the Supreme Court of Vermont, in a case it's called Downtown District Tax Challengers versus the City of Rutland, the Vermont Supreme Court stated that whenever possible, charters will be harmonized with general law. So unless we have an express inconsistency that exists in a charter, it is going to be harmonized with the general law governing the subject. With that in mind, I would say that it is unlikely that this subsection B on its own, without more specific language around it, would allow the town manager to circumvent labor laws that apply to municipal employees.
Is it a crack in the door?
I don't know how to qualify cracking the door versus anything else, but this is not express enough to allow the town manager to subvert labor law broadly.
Just a simple little charter. Representative Pismell.
Have we ever denied a charter?
Oh,
We have.
Mhm.
I'm just Smith that we have, that if a town wants to do something like this, that it goes to the legislature to be approved. I mean,
Dylan's role.
yeah, Dylan's role, but yeah,
It's not me.
yeah,
It's Dylan.
Dylan,
Representative Boyden.
And just to feed off of that, the governor has also vetoed charters before.
you has.
I mean, we can-
Charter
We can
changes
amend
or
it. Oh,
like,
yeah. We
or
can
basic
amend them
charters.
and we can, well, I mean, they're all the same. And when they
Yeah.
come in, it's just the degree of like desires, whether it's like tuning up, like, your voting times and whether or not you have a where's
changing
coal.
town meeting day. and all
Yeah,
that kind of-
but there's also other things that have come in. We will see some of them where some may question whether or not a charter is an appropriate place for these decisions or conversations.
Gotcha.
So there's a range of ideas and thought bubbles that come in with charters. Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the reason I asked you that question was that's the second time effectively that unilateral dismissal is authorized, quote unquote, if indeed the statement of purpose carries any.
Right, so unilateral in that the select board here is excluded. So the town manager would not have to go to the select board in order to make these decisions. It would be unilateral authority.
Adoption charter, town board's right to authorize the town manager to hire, appoint, and remove all tyrant employees. Select board. Not mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, they're essentially deferring all of the operational management authority to the town manager.
Subject to personnel rules that may be adopted by the select board.
Yeah, so we're definitely gonna have to chat about some of this. So right now I have this piece. We've got section, what do we got? 2. General law application, right, correct? And then 3, so basically 2 and 3 in section 3. Have questions on it, it seems, for the committee. Am I reading it that way?
Okay, you're saying that that's the only thing that's throwing up a red flag for us
Yeah,
at this point?
yeah. To have like
That's number
further
2.
discussion. Yeah, well, 2 and the town management authority also seems. I got a couple of questions on that. I want to talk that time. Representative Coffin.
No, I just asking Tucker.
Yeah.
The general law application that you said that is standard based on something that it was, I missed the number from 17 VSA.
17 VSA section 2631, which describes the scope and application of general law and charters. So that section states broadly that unless otherwise provided by law, when the charter provides for procedures other than those established by law, the procedures of the charter shall prevail. So special law later enacted, it controls. Subsection B, all provisions of law relating to a municipality shall apply to a municipality with a charter. That basically says that if you have general authority out there in Title 24, Title 17, Title 6 with ag stuff, whatever, if it's granted to municipalities broadly, even the chartered towns get that general authority. And it's only where you have special piece of authority, such as that subsection B, section 3 of the charter, where the charter controls to the exclusion of conflicting general law.
Okay. And that section 3B is the special law for the town. That falls outside the general law.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had written that right.
any point. It's very interesting area of the law. And as far as Vermont's jurisprudence around delegations of legislative authority, it is the deepest well of Supreme Court decisions we have, is examining when you have a constitutional and appropriate delegation of legislative authority to municipal corporations.
Yeah, that's probably a good tutorial just for the context into the subject matter to do when we've got a window of time as an immersive resource. Do we have any other questions for Tucker? We definitely got a couple more questions here, a couple of things to noodle on. Nope. Thank you, kind sir.
Thank you.
All right. So we're gonna probably have to talk to some of the folks from the municipality again and just get an understanding of this. I don't want to say where my thoughts are at right now because I'm really diving in several directions. But we'll schedule some more time on this run. I really want to try and do this week. All right, if anybody doesn't have anything else right now, we'll take a 10-minute break to pick things up.